Hi guys, how are you today? It's your girl T, and this is Witchy Tea, the channel where we can sit down together, have some tea, and learn about witchcraft. Today we are going to be talking about the basics of witchcraft. You know, no one wants to be a basic witch. So we have to learn the basics so that we can move on to the fun stuff. But first things first, let's talk about the tea of the day. So the tea that we are drinking today is the Black Limon Organic Black Tea from Rishi Tea and Botanicals. I got it in a gift box that my roommate gave to me. It's a little sweeter than like a Lipton tea. And the lemon flavor is very subtle. I did have to add my own lemon juice into it, like I do with most of my teas. But a little really goes a long way when it comes to this tea, because I guess since it already had lemon flavor in it, it just intensified the lemon juice that I put in it, so I didn't have to put that much in it, if that makes sense. But yeah, it's really good. If anyone is interested in the Rishi company or sampling any of their teas, I'll leave their link in the description box down below. Now, without further ado, let's get into the video. Now, the most important thing to know about witchcraft is that it is not just broomsticks and love spells. It is very serious stuff, and anyone practicing it should treat it as such. It is very serious work and can have very real results and consequences. Now, with that out of the way, let's get into some basic terminology. I'll talk more in depth about these in later videos, but let's get familiar with these terms now so that we know what they mean. A grimoire, or a book of shadows, is a witch's personal spell book used to chronicle their spells and the results of their work. Spellbooks can be bought or borrowed from other witches, but a grimoire is personal, and it is specific to the witch that wrote it. It can also be referred to as a book of shadows. These terms are interchangeable. A coven is a collection of witches that gather together for ceremonies to help amplify each other's spell work. There are many different types of covens all over the world. They practice all different types of magic. But typically, the people in a coven have similar interests and beliefs or similar ways of practicing magic, and they usually bind themselves together. A priest or a priestess is the leader of the coven, usually but not always female. Some covens may even have a high priest or high priestess, in which the priest or priestess also takes on the role of the spiritual leader within the coven, and is oftentimes regarded as the human incarnate of whatever deity or entity that coven worships, if any at all. So like, for example, some covens worship Venus. So if they had a high priest or priestess, the people in that coven would believe that that person was the human incarnate of the goddess Venus. There are many different types of witches. If you're into labels, I'm not, but some people are. An eclectic witch is the most common type of witch identities. It basically means a witch who practices all types of witchcraft and picks and chooses what types of spells and rituals they would like to practice. I'm sure you've heard of many different types of witches: green witches, dark witches, light witches, the whole shebang. An eclectic witch is like a culmination of all of them. If you're a green witch, that means you only practice this type of magic. dark witch, this type of magic. An eclectic witch practices all types of magic. She picks and chooses what she wants to practice. And most people tend to fall into that category. An altar is a place that holds all or most of a witch's important supplies for spellcrafting. Most witches will also perform their spell work in front of their altar unless the spell calls for a specific location. A familiar is an animal guide. They are believed to be a guardian angel, or if you don't believe in angels, they can be anything similar that aligns with your specific belief. But they're believed to be guardians that take on the form of an animal, usually a pet, to protect and offer guidance to their witch. This right here is Artemis. She is my familiar. I got her under some weird circumstances. She kind of found me, actually. I was supposed to be getting her brother as a pet, but I ended up with her. And that usually happens with familiars. Either they'll find you, or you can also cast your pet as a familiar. There she goes. You know how when you're at home and your room is dirty, so you clean it? Yeah, the word cleanse can have a similar meaning in witchcraft. Just like when you're cleaning your room, you're getting rid of all the trash and dirt and cleaning it so that it looks nice and it feels good to be in the room. Cleansing is the same thing, except you're doing it on a spiritual level instead of a physical level. Cleansing is the act of clearing an object or a space of negative energies or spirits. This is usually done using a bundle of sage, Palo Santos, candles, prayer, or some combination of all of them. You know, there's no right or wrong way to do witchcraft, and there's definitely no right or wrong way to cleanse yourself and or your space. Love spells are spells done to attract love. Use caution when performing these spells, as they can be very powerful, and some can even fall into the category of black magic. The more emotion that you put into a spell, the more powerful the spell will be. And one of the most powerful emotions that humans can have is love. On a most basic level, that's the only emotion that everyone either is always having or always craving. You either have love or you're craving the need to be loved, which is why love spells are some of the most powerful spells that there are. Black magic is magic that is done to harm another person and or force them to do something against their will. For example, hexing somebody or making them fall in love with you. This is where we're getting into that, how love spells can be black magic. On the surface level, making someone fall in love with you sounds great, you know, unconditional love from someone, but you're forcing them to feel feelings that they wouldn't have felt if you didn't make them feel that way, and that it can be an incredibly disrespectful invasion of privacy. A basic rule to go by is that if you wouldn't want somebody to do it to you, you probably shouldn't do it to them. Now, that's not me shaming anybody who does do black magic. If you do black magic, that's all good for you. But I do not practice black magic, and it is not something that I will be encouraging on my channel. That being said, if you do choose to practice, if you are a beginner witch and you do choose to practice black magic, it should be done with an absolute abundance of caution. whenever you do black magic, it opens the door for negative energies and negative spirits to affect you, and it opens the door for somebody else to be able to more easily do that exact same thing to you, which is why I generally choose to stay away from it. Clairvoyance is the act of using magic to predict the future. Examples of this include crystal balls, seances, tarot or palm readings, anything that a witch can use at her disposal to predict the future. A lot of people will use the term psychic and clairvoyant interchangeably because they kind of both mean someone who is able to predict the future. In a more in-depth level, they are both just using different types of divination, which we'll get into next. Divination is a type of witchcraft wherein a witch will use various mediums like tarot cards, the palm of your hand, tea leaves, anything that they can interpret messages from spirits, deities, or other divine entities. Hence the term divination. As an eclectic witch with a focus in clairvoyance, this is the type of magic that I personally use most often. Crystals are specific rocks that hold mystical power that can be utilized in spell casting, healing, or everyday life. You can buy them right out, or sometimes you can also find them in candles. This is a rose quartz candle that I got. It's just a candle that had rose quartz crystals embedded in the wax. That this specific candle, because it had rose quartz in it, was meant to attract love and was already, I bought it with that blessing already attached to it. But you can also bless your own candles. Like, you can cleanse them of their energy and bless them yourselves so that they have whatever attachment you want them to have, and they can help in your spell crafting. A spell jar is a jar containing herbs and spell ingredients used to amplify the effects of a spell or manifestation, and usually sealed with the wax. And that noise that you hear is Artemis over there being a butt. I'll be right back. Sometimes used from the remains of a spell for extra emphasis. You can actually sometimes tell if your spell worked by what your spell jar looks like the next day. If it's all cracked and the wax is not sticking to the jar, those can be signs that the spell was unsuccessful. Moon water. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's a water that has been bathed and or cleansed in the light of the moon. Some witches, myself included, choose to leave moon water on their altar as a representation of one of the four elements. It's usually a good idea to have something that represents each of the four elements: water, fire, earth, and air, on your altar as a representation of how harmonious you are with nature. Moon water can also be used to wash your hands before or after a spell, especially when that spell needs to be cast during a certain stage of the moon cycle. This is one of the oldest phrases associated with witchcraft, going back multiple millennia. Today, you may see this in certain unnamed chain stores on just about anything marketed with a magical or witchy theme. But it was originally meant to reference how the earth mirrors the heavens, and it's a metaphor, and it's used a lot in witchcraft, especially modern witchcraft. It's really on its most basic level a metaphor that can be used to reference how any two opposites are the same. Like how you can look outward for answers from the universe as well as you can look inward to look for answers from yourself. These are just a handful of basic terms that you should get familiar with to begin your journey into witchcraft and the occult. Don't just stop here. I am in no way the be-all, end-all of this stuff. I still consider myself a beginner too, after all, and I suggest doing some of your own research. Witchcraft has been around and practiced for thousands of years, and there are a plethora of resources to learn from. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. And leave a comment telling me what you want me to talk about next time, or if you think I missed anything important that should have been in the video. Be kind to one another, and I'll see you in the next one.